Well, it's very nice to be here. I've been asked to sing a verse and chorus of a little marching song of mine the boys adopted more or less during the war. I don't have to tell you I'm not much of a vocalist, but I'll do the best I can with it. So we'll just imagine for the moment we're back in 1917 and the orders from the front. Forward march, Doctor. Johnny, get your gun, get your gun, get your gun. Take it on the run, on the run, on the run. Hear them calling, you and me, every son of liberty. Hurry right away, don't delay, go today. Make your daddy glad to have had such a lad, and tell your sweetheart not to pine, to be proud her boys in line. Over there, send the word over there, that the Yanks are coming, the Yanks are coming, the drums coming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer, send the word to where we'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there. Say a prayer, send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Fierce Brood. My name is Matt Yancic, and I am the founder and I'm the head game master here at Manufactured Myth and Legerdemain. Welcome to tonight's episode 14 of the Fierce Brood. So we are an RPG of actual play, of actual historic fiction. So in each episode, we blend actual locations, events, and historic figures from Boston of 1918 with a fictional story and fictional characters of our own creation. So for those of you that are watching and listening carefully, you may notice a few historic Easter eggs planted throughout our story. So if you do, don't be afraid to speak up in the chat. It's all part of the fun. So, as always, though, I am joined by some very good friends of mine. This is the part where I would normally say that I've been playing with for like 35-something years, but I'm not going to say that because if I said that, it would get us talking about the other thing that we were joking about earlier before the show, and that is the fact that we are old men. So, at any rate, let's go in this weird order tonight because people are kind of rearranged. Normally people are in different spots, but let's start with Jared. Jared, my good friend, can you tell me and the viewers who you're playing tonight?
Sure. I'm going to be playing Thomas Brandon Dietrich. Usually goes by TBD. He is a graceful explorer who learns quickly. And he is probably the most excited out of the four of us here to be involved in this new adventure, since this is what he really wants to do, is be in an adventure. So
yeah, but this is not necessarily exactly what your character had in mind.
Not what he thought he was going to be. No, he's been living his whole life as a field scientist, so this is something new.
Well, you're getting out into the field, that's for
I
sure. Let's keep rolling along. Frank, can you tell us who you are playing tonight?
Yeah, I'm playing Murph, and I don't get very excited about much except a good BLT or perhaps a Danish.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. But I am a resilient, little bit on the thick. I can probably take a punch or two. Night watchman, but not anymore because I'm pretty sure I've lost my job. We'll call me a warrior because that's what it says in the rules, and I am licensed to carry. So even though TBD has brokered himself into a firearm, I am legitimately able to
Right.
carry one.
Right.
Yeah.
So you basically you pretty much know what you're doing. And you know what? I don't think I asked anything about this. TBD, why are you carrying a firearm as a field scientist? Or I guess you're more of an Indiana Jones type.
It's more
That's
of an
kind of how
Indiana Jones thing. I'm always careful.
Okay. Got it. All right. Well, at least we know that one person in the group is licensed to carry and is fairly competent in that. Well, no, they're not necessarily the same thing. I was saying that one's licensed and one's competent. Whether or not they're the same thing, that's something different.
We will find out.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. How about you, James? Tell us who you're playing tonight.
I'm James, coming at you from Wisconsin, the land of the polar vortex.
Yeah. As if on
I'm-
cue.
Nice.
As if you were planning that comment.
Yeah,
weren't you?
I wanted it to reflect my mental state.
Right. Right.
That's-
You're in your
coming
happy
up.
place right now.
Yeah, so because really it's more like the depths of space.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm done with those filters. So I'm playing Vesper Evenwing, a composer turned con man, who is happy to be bumbling about with these characters of questionable licenses and competences, to have a place to stay in the bottom of a magic carpet and learn a little bit more about this shared delusion we have entered in.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're wondering whether or not James just mentioned the bottom of a magic carpet, he did. It's all about context. I can tell you as an English teacher. Don't worry, we're only 14 episodes in. There's very little to catch up on at this point in time. Don't even worry about it. Just now's a great time to jump on.
That's the hook to draw you further in to find
That's
out
right.
what's going on under that carpet.
You come for the magic carpet, you stay for our personalities. Let's keep rolling here with our. Wait, what was that? Was that a serious cough, or was that like an old man cough?
Oh
We
no,
really-
that
Totally
was.
off.
I took what Jared as saying as like, oh yeah, and I laughed, and it was a cough laugh.
Oh, all right. We are old, aren't we? Let's brush that under the magic carpet and move right along to Steve. Can you please tell us a little something about your character?
Sure. I am portraying Ezekiel Z. Brewster, born into a Boston Brahmin family of privilege, and due to some crazy circumstances in his teens, was exiled from the family and jumped from foster home to foster home, eventually landing in a seminary, studying to be a priest, and currently on sabbatical as the adventures taking place, and discovering some strange new powers, as well as a new mission from, drawing from his faith into the strangeness that he's encountered.
Cool. And as a matter of fact, just a few episodes ago, you finally got to, in front of your compatriots, use your abilities to their fullest, and you ended up flaming on, not unlike the Human Torch. Or at least
Correct.
That's the way I kind of see it. So at any rate, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Let's get back to our story. So in prior episodes of the Fierce Brood, our heroes found themselves drawn to the 1918 World Series to save a boy named Pascal and his protector, a representative of the New England Society for the Preservation of Antiquities named Leonard Cloudy, from the clutches of Harold Coatsworth III. Coatsworth, it seemed, was a member of a rival organization called Watch and Ward. So a pursuit across Boston ensued, but eventually they escaped to a strange and kind of warped version of Boston called Tremontaine. So this city, though, was built on the leaf of an enormous vine in a world known as Vagavur, filled with strange and exotic creatures. And so there, our four heroes met Mark Twain. Yes, that Mark Twain, who revealed himself to be one of the leaders of the New England Society for the Preservation of Antiquities. So our heroes are offered membership. They're sent back to Boston and then placed in contact with a Dr. Farley, a distinguished scholar with Harvard University, who would come to act as their contact, advisor, and sometimes quartermaster. So upon returning to their homes, however, the four discovered that a few days in Vagaver had actually taken months back on Earth, and it was now mid-November. The Great War, World War I, as we would call it these days, had come to an end. The pandemic had gotten worse, and the world had moved on, to steal kind of a famous line from a famous book and a famous author that I won't mention and pretend to have originally created Okay, I'm keeping it rolling. So dealing with separate issues, they eventually regrouped to investigate Boston's Sunshine House, a home for wayward children which they suspect is connected to Watch and Ward. There, a nurse they'd first encountered at the World Series, Madeline Stillwell, and I'm giving you guys the last name because you never asked for it, but I'm giving it now. Madeline Stillwell introduces them to Humbert Pantsman, leader of the Sunshine House and a dead ringer in appearance for Harold Coatsworth III, who claims to have seen Z and Murphy in a glorious vision. So while searching the bowels of the building, however, the two uncover a laboratory where clones of the children staying at the Sunshine House are being fabricated. So meanwhile, Vesper and Dietrich follow their own leads to the Purity Distilling Company on the north end of Boston and discover a clue. Trucks from Boston Standard Shipping are bringing a mysterious cargo onto the grounds, transporting it from Commonwealth Pier here in Boston. So later, all four finally confront Harold Coatsworth III in a battle on the lawn of the Boston Public Library. They manage to repel Coatsworth, and then Vesper, using his ability to open doorways to Vagaver, confirms a startling fact. Agents of Watch and Ward are working alongside the Germans, the newly defeated Germans. And then something unexpected happens. Madeline Stillwell comes to them to ask for help. Naturally, our heroes being heroes, they do indeed help her out. However, this opens up a whole other can of worms. And now our heroes are in hiding at a safe house somewhere in Boston, and they are investigating exactly what it is that's going on at Commonwealth Pier. And as they look out from a building top to the pier, what they see is some sort of strange intradimensional mixing in which Vagaver and Earth have become overlaid. And only our heroes can see this overlay of realities. To everyone else here on Earth, everything appears to be just as it should be. And so this is where we're going to pick up for tonight. And at this point, I'm going to kind of turn things over to my players, and I'm going to ask them if there's anything they need to have clarified, or anything they would like to maybe clarify for me or point out that I have missed. Is that about where we are, gentlemen?
Yep. Seems accurate.
So with that, what is it that you gentlemen would like to do? We can start you out right at the top of a building overlooking Commonwealth Pier, and we can take it from there, or we can kind of debate whether or not you want to head back, or if there's something else you'd like to do. We could also possibly advance time. I would like to remind you guys that you do have waiting for you back at the safe house Madeline, and a small little note here, footnote that we forgot to add, she does still have the pet skin dog with her. So she's waiting back at the safe house. What would you gentlemen like to do at this point?
I wouldn't mind starting up on top of the roof here, and we can talk things through.
All right.
Anybody else?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So then, how are we proceeding?
We had some, I think,
I
vague
feel like we're.
ideas
Oh, go ahead.
of assignments,
Mm-hmm.
or at least of things people were interested in doing.
Mm.
And I really can't recall which each one was. For me, I think I might look to infiltrate a ship or interact with the dock workers. Frank, were you looking at the train yard or something?
Yeah, we noticed that there were a couple. I don't know if they were guards or overseers, but people seemed to
Mm-hmm.
be on site, keeping an eye on things. And I'm confident if we need to go down there or we want to investigate further, I can at least get us in there because it's part of the whole railroad
Mm.
dock system where I was, as aforementioned, formerly employed. So I'm pretty sure I can get us there or if not close.
Yeah, and
What
oh, please go ahead.
there was something with some feds that were hanging about? What was all that?
Yeah. So, does anyone want to clarify that, or do you want me to sort of jump in? It's up to you guys. So, you guys from afar had been watching what was going on down at the pier and sort of discovering that there was actually, this sort of mixing of worlds going on. There were a lot of ships that were docked there that looked like they were just regular normal ships from Earth. But in this case, they would have been probably from across the Atlantic Ocean in Europe, or perhaps even from Africa. However, you'd also notice that there was a massive Vagavurian influence. So many of the ships were also what I had called gravity shucks, and rather than traveling across the water, they were actually traveling across that empty space, that void between this ring of Vagavur and another ring of Vagavur. The feds that you had mentioned were what looked like there may have been agents of some sort that were hanging out interspersed among the dock workers. I believe, I don't remember who it was. I'm going to guess it was Frank, but I don't. Yeah, Frank.
Yeah, I was
think,
watching.
Yes, Frank recognized kind of the telltale signs of movements or gestures or behavior in general that was not unlike the sorts of things that he had been trained in his prior life as a flatfoot for Boston PD. We hadn't really taken it any further than that. So that is what you remember and recall. As far as separate missions go, you had been moving back and forth between here and Purity Distilling because there was some sort of shipment or shipping taking place between the two places. But on the other hand, you hadn't really looked closely at where all of those vehicles coming and going from the Commonwealth Pier were going, and they may have actually very well been going to other spots through Boston or even through, as a matter of fact, it could have been New England. So there's always that possibility. And Frank, you had indeed been thinking about like what you might want to look into at the rail yard, which would be, I think, is adjoined, isn't it? Adjoined to
It's part of
time.
the what is it? The New York, New Haven, Hartford Railroad system.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And then you would also, at a certain point, and I don't want to tell you what to do, but you had been discussing the fact that at this point, you're getting a little bit deep into all of this, and you thought that you might want to touch base with Mark Twain back in Vagavur about exactly what your mission was or what you were expected to do. And I would assume at the very least, you'd probably want to talk to Langdon Clemens, a.k.a. Dr. Farley, back at Harvard University as well. So these are all possibilities, depending on which direction you want to take it.
Well, I thought last week, didn't Farley say he was going to bring some of our information to Haley or Twain,
Yeah,
and that we were just kind of marking time?
He had actually said, as far as marking time goes, he had actually said that it would probably make sense for you fellas to go into hiding. So you're at a temporary safe house right now, but he had actually recommended that he put you in hiding with the FiERCE BRooD themselves, and he needed to get into touch with them. And so you are marking time waiting for him to sort of set that up. And we had kind of said, I think at that point, that at least a day or two, I thought, had passed, or we were thinking about advancing the story a day or two, depending, again, on what you feel like doing.
And I was shying away from getting back to Vagaver because just time would just drain away.
Yeah, that's part of the issue, is that when you do go there, time moves so quickly back here on Earth that you're going to miss, well, you could potentially miss quite a bit. Any other questions?
So what implication, given that time dilation, what implication does that have, Vesper, for your vision of Coatsworth working with the Germans?
I mean, I have no
could this
idea
armistice
of his timeline, but it's seriously like cloning soldiers or just like the children in the lab seems like putting that together, and on the heels of the armistice, I don't know what kind of timeline that becomes.
Well, it makes me wonder if this armistice is some kind of a ruse to buy time for this invasion from Vagaver, perhaps. I don't know.
I think that it was the idea that room that he was in Vagaver, but he went through another doorway that I think was on Earth. That's the feeling I got of that.
Yeah, to sort of clarify that moment, I had not exactly answered where it was, but I had sort of described what you had seen, because maybe you weren't able to sort of follow through with that and figure it out exactly. But yes, so when Vesper watched with his eye, with his third eye, or whatever you want to call it, what he had seen was someone going into like a little tenement and then opening up a door and looking in on what looked to be some sort of a laboratory where there were Germans. And they were mixed actually in with Vagavurians. So the implication was that they were working together. Now the thing is, and I don't want to tell you what to think, but here's the thing, is he may have opened a doorway going back to Earth, and you may have actually been looking at Earth again, from Earth through Vagaver back to Earth, if that makes any sense at all. So just something to think about.
Yeah, that was my recollection of it and what I took from it.
Two other things to keep us mindful of. One, there's obviously a bunch of documents and information at the harbor master that we may want to get at to understand tracking of shipments. And there are also a bunch of documents in the Sunshine House about the work that they do there.
And files, as a matter of fact, is what Madeline had mentioned. So files potentially on each and every one of you. You don't know that, but she had mentioned that they did have some. So they may very well be you guys, for all you know.
That could be a good in with getting in the Sunshine House if she isn't burnt there, if she can still get in. Maybe for us to take some things.
Yeah, that is a good question.
I don't know. The feeling, since she was attacked by those skin dogs, I think she's on the outs.
Well, if we choose to go down that road, we can maybe.
She'd certainly give us intel, perhaps.
For information, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, looking down at the pier with all the ships and everything. I guess I want to just kind of monitor and see if any of these trucks that we saw are coming from the Purity Distillery, which ships they might be going towards, and getting a feel for the pier, the harbor, to see where kind of the hubbub of where the dock workers are heading, where that harbor master might be.
So looking down at the main gates, and there are several checkpoints where vehicles are coming and going, entering Commonwealth Pier. And it's not like what you would picture with today's like ridiculous TSA security. This is 1918, like a guy, a guy, no offense, Murphy, not unlike Murphy, who looks like he's gotten about an hour's worth of sleep the night before and maybe slightly hungover, standing at a guardhouse, allowing people to kind of enter and scratching their names off on a clipboard. You can see that there are vehicles, large vehicles, cargo vehicles coming and going. The ships are all being offloaded. You can see that I should say that Dietrich and Vesper can see that it's a kind of a healthy mixture of both Earth ships and Vagavurian ships. And I assume that they sort of relay the information to their buddies, so you can all kind of share in this knowledge. You do, without even having to roll, you do notice that there is a Purity Distilling a Purity Distilling truck that is actually accompanied by a second truck, and they seem to be sort of together, and they are entering the facility, and they stop at the checkpoint. The guard sleepily scratches his ass, checks his clipboard, nods to each driver, and then allows them to enter. And then as they enter, they turn and head down a long sort of a service road, if you will, along the docks. And without further ado, you notice a large gravity shuck that stands out among all of the ships. And looking at it, it is hanging to Vesper and Dietrich. It is hanging in space, anchored to the pier, which kind of goes in and out between an Earth-like appearance and a Vagavurian appearance. At one moment, it looks like it's slats of wood that are constructed in a standard kind of platform. But then the next moment, you blink your eyes and shake your head, and it's actually some sort of organic construction that looks like it's almost like a spider's web. And it's woven out from the edge of the leaf that you are all existing on right now in Vagavur, in Yomerk, which is the world, or I'm sorry, Vaten, which is the world vine. The ship on the side, in the traditional area where an Earth ship would have it written, has Vagavurian writing along the edge. And Dietrich, sounding it out slowly, and I won't even make you roll for this, it is, in fact, Vodetter. The Vodetter. So this is the ship which you, Vesper, had seen on the manifest and invoice, which you stole from Purity Distilling. And these two trucks make their way, turn around, park, and then the drivers meet with a group of workers who, for all appearances to, Earthers, they appear to be the standard sort of stevedores, longshoremen, sailors that you would see, the grungy types you would see on any sort of a ship. And they kind of organize themselves, and they start offloading some sort of cargo from the Vodetter and loading up these 2 trucks. And at the same point,
So the loading's only going one direction.
the loading is going in one direction. It's as if they're picking something up. I'll let you decide what you want to do now. I'm not going to tell you too much.
Have any of the people we saw staking out the place noticed this? Are they paying any attention to this? Or are they concentrated somewhere else?
You probably have to talk to Murphy about that, because Murphy's the one that has eyes on, or sorry, a little anachronistic there, but he's the one that knows, he's the one that recognizes these sore thumbs. Murphy, you want to maybe with an assist from Dietrich see what you can see?
Yeah. I will take a
Sure.
closer look, and I will use an intellect effort.
Okay, so for those of you that are watching at home, Cipher system works in a beautifully simple way, an elegant way, I would like to say. So any task is related to a stat, and that stat might be might, speed, or intellect, of which Murphy has just selected his intellect. So that is the stat that is challenged against the task difficulty, which I rate from 1 to 10. Now, this 1 to 10 rating is then multiplied by 3. Stay with me, folks. This is not as complex as it seems. So that task difficulty is multiplied by 3. And then that is the number that, that Murphy has to beat with his D20 roll. And so, however, having said that, he can modify the difficulty by taking certain steps to ease the task and lower the difficulty level, and hence lower the target number that he needs to achieve a successful roll with. So, now that we've gotten that out of the way, how would you like to do this, Murphy?
I don't have any skills other than my own observation laced eyes,
Yes.
but I will use TBD as an assist because he's asked me to take a closer look at the gentlemen who seem to be boarding, and then I will apply one level of effort, only one,
Well,
because I don't have a lot to spare.
you actually get another easement because I am paying it forward. I'm suggesting an action that's not an attack, so that action for you is eased for a whole minute.
Well, that's above my level of intelligence, so I'm just going to roll this.
Yeah, he's like, oh, me roll good, me try.
I rolled an 11.
With an 11, what you see is the hallmark of a classic stakeout. And this has the fingerprints, not of feds, but you think of Boston PD. Boston PD is down there, and there's something going on down there, and they look like they're interested in the loading or offloading or whatever happens to be going on, the transaction that's going on down there, and they're kind of watching. But more than that, you're not really sure. You'd have to get down on the ground and kind of either sneak in there or get close to the fence or something like that. You're a little far.
Well, that's the lay of the land, gentlemen. I'm not one to connect the dots. But if you think there's any metal to going down there.
So the unloading is coming. They're bringing stuff from Vagaver to here.
That's what you are assuming, because they are offloading the Vodetter, and they're placing what look like crates from both perspectives, from both the Vagavurian and the Earth perspective, onto these trucks. And they've just kind of gotten started, and it looks like it's probably going to take them an hour or so maybe to get all this stuff.
I think we need to find out what's in those crates.
I would agree. I want to also would love to find out where they're going. Hopefully, I'm assuming that they're all going back to the distillery. But do you want to intercept them before they get there, or wait till they get there and break into the place?
So why don't we, and by we I mean why don't I,
Is it the papal we?
stow away on one of these trucks, and then you guys can use the magic carpet to follow into wherever it is. As a young boy on the streets, after I was kicked out of my home, I learned to jump on rail cars and be pretty adept at sneaking around. I know I can get in there without being seen, especially these guys. They look half drunk anyway.
All right.
So
Now, and
you're-
just as a quick aside,
Mhm.
we've been working under the impression that we're somehow making encephalo powder here on Earth and sending it there. But what we're seeing right here would seem to indicate that something's coming here and being brought to a distillery
Perhaps,
perhaps
the natural
distribution.
resources to
Yeah, maybe
create
the raw
thing.
materials. That's why we need to
Right.
find out what's in those crates.
That makes sense.
Okay.
I have a question. Is there one of the feds that's a little isolated from the others? They're not necessarily all in.
That's
Eye
BPD,
contact.
Vesper. That's Boston's finest.
Murphy is offended by that.
But I
We're not
look him up
feds.
and down then, and I
I-
take it to mean they're not that smart.
Yeah, I
Um,
was there.
But you, Murph, you speak their language. I think we could get some information without burning any possibility of them knowing we were there.
Did I notice if they were human or not? I can't remember if we did this last week.
Yes,
Okay.
I believe you did.
Yes, they were human.
Okay.
Thank you, Frank, for filling in the blank.
Yes.
Before we embark on the truck extravaganza you have planned, Zed, firstly, I would like to go with Murphy to talk to one of these gentlemen in the suits.
That could provide a good distraction to get me in.
Very well. We will do so.
All right, so I assume then that all four of you are, well, is it going to be perhaps the three of you while Dietrich kind of keeps an eye on what's going on above, or how do you want to break up here now?
Up to TBD.
Yeah, up to TBD.
I am happy to do either. I wouldn't mind staying up here and keeping watch and keeping tabs on what's going on, but I also don't mind being involved. Just if you guys are gonna go, one of my thoughts or plans was that if we could find out who they are, the cops, the feds, whatever they are, maybe we can use them against us, because what might be really interesting is to issue a warning or a complaint to the travel guild that gave you the citation, Vesper, and maybe we can make them come down and give these people a citation or cause some sort of ruckus. Let's see if we can use the system against them. So if you can find out what these guys are, maybe they'll give us an edge that way.
True. Yeah, we don't know if this is licensed interdimensional travel or not.
That's right.
Yeah, if
See
they
how
are,
eager they are to hand out tickets, just any old guy
if they are smuggling,
just doing it.
That's right.
All right. Well, we should probably get this information kind of first with this guy, and then Zed can look at doing that. But we also will need to get in the car and follow the truck, because we don't want to lose him like across the city or something. He'll wake up in Roxbury.
Remember, the car obeys my commands as well, even when we're not around.
Good. We will keep in octo contact.
Right.
all right. So
Okay.
can
so
I?
I would like to go downstairs and find one of the Fed guys
I'm with
You're
him.
Murphy, and I'm gonna walk like straight up to this guy.
Okay, so you are going. So let me just clarify something here. I had imagined the Boston police officers who were kind of watching. I had been telling you who was within the bounds of the Commonwealth Pier. So, in other words, who's on the other side of the fence. I actually had not been describing anything on the outside of the fence. So, are you looking for someone on the outside of the fence now?
Yeah, I think I was thinking of that. Just someone easy to get up to because we don't
Well,
need
we can
to
get
try
into
and
the fence. We can certainly get in the property. I don't think that's a problem.
All right, well, yeah, let's go that way. I'll let Murph take the lead on that, but once
Okay.
we get up to the feds, I'm gonna do something.
And then, so can I take it then that Z is going with the trio, and then maybe you're going to be the one that. Are you slipping in through the guardhouse, maybe trying to convince your way through, or are you going to sneak in?
I'm
with
gonna
these
sneak
guys?
in.
Okay, so I assume the three of you are going together then.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm also assuming Z's going to just split off before
Right.
we hit
Before
the
I'm
entry point.
in sight, yeah.
Okay, and then
And kind of look around for a way in, away from prying eyes.
okay, and then Dietrich, you were going to remain on the rooftop and perhaps just sort of watch over everything and make sure.
Yeah, and I can give him tips. So the guard's looking left, you can move right, that kind of thing.
And
But
keep
also
an eye
keep
out.
tabs of how
Yeah, for
the shipments are going
Vagaburians.
and right.
Okay.
Overwatch.
All right, that works. So then you get into a position where you feel that you're best able to assist your compatriots. And then I assume that maybe Murphy points out each and every one of those guards that he has noticed on the other side of the fence, just so that you can keep a close eye on them.
There.
And then the other three of you file down this stairwell of some tenement building that you've just climbed to the top of, bumping into every once in a while, obviously poor tenants who are packed in with enormous families into very small apartments. Coming out into the daylight, it is a crisp and chilly day. There is a residue of some snow on the ground, even though it's it's perhaps only the third week, I'm guessing, or maybe the second or third week of November at this point. And you start to move toward the fence. Now, there are two checkpoints that you notice, and I'm going to say that as you approach the fence, the two checkpoints are to your left. There's first one, a close one, and then a farther one that's up, and then directly in front of you is the pier that stretches out. And so for you, Vesper, as you look out, you see a mixture of Earth ships and Vagavurian ships kind of parked, and your vision kind of flips between that imagery of ships floating in space and ships floating on water as you do so. What is your plan? I suppose it's kind of up to you, as Vesper was saying, Murphy. What's your plan? You're keeping an eye on, the security detail. You've got an idea of how it works. You've done this sort of thing before, both as a security flatfoot and then as a flatfoot that's undercover with the BPD. What's your plan for entry here?
I'm hoping just to convince, if they're not folks I'm familiar with already, if they're just straight up guards, I need to convince them that we have business beyond the fence. And well, my instant thought is that Vesper will be playing the part of a merchant. No, he doesn't have to say anything because I'm under orders, and he would like to inspect the docks because he's thinking about buying let's call it a carpet warehouse for his import business.
Okay.
And export.
That's right. Gotta do both.
Imports and exports.
An importer
And then I assume that Z is going to kind of split off at a certain point, like maybe by
Correct.
when you start talking with this guard,
Yeah.
he's going to split off under the distraction and try to sneak in. Like, are you going to go in through like a gate, or looking at it? I'll describe it then. So looking at it, there is a large gate that simply opens up. And now this is a wooden gate. We're not talking about like a chain link fence or anything like that. It is a enormous wooden gate with steel reinforcements and bolts that's holding it together. And it's large enough for the largest, a couple of large trucks to pass through it. There's a small shack of a guardhouse that's not unlike the guardhouse that you used to sit at, Murphy, when you were working overtime at Fenway Park. And there is actually a smaller door on the other side of the gate, farthest on the opposite side of the gate, the side that is opposite the guardhouse itself, that could potentially be opened up and moved through. So at this point, I'm going to just sort of start with Murphy and Vesper as they approach a guard. Murphy, can you tell us what kind of a guy or would be working at the pier at this point? You have a bit of a history. Is this going to be a competent guy? Is this going to be a sleepy, lazy guy? What do you think?
Day shift's different than night shift.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. During the day, depending upon the character, it's pretty much could be a family guy, I would think, working the day shift so he can spend night at home. It's a little bit more put together, especially to be put on guard duty. Not a ne'er-do-well or anything like that. So he's got an idea of what's going on.
So stepping out of the guardhouse is indeed someone who you've just described. And as you look at him, what you see is a younger fella. And by younger fella, I mean more like maybe a few years older than Z, and Vesper maybe around your age, because I had always taken it that you were probably a couple of years younger. But for you, Murphy, this fella's a rookie. And you can kind of just see it on his face as he approaches. He's been up all night because his wife probably just had a baby. The two of them have been trying to, the thing has been crying all night long. They haven't been able to keep it quiet. And now he's working, not just that, but he's also working another second job in the evenings just to pick up some extra cash to pay for the new baby. And he steps out of the guardhouse, and as he does so, he tips the brim of his cap just to sort of like relieve that pressure that he's been feeling on his head all morning long, as it's been squeezing at his temple. It's a size too small for him because he couldn't get anything closer to his own size. And as he does so, the cap tips off and falls to the ground, and it rolls right at your feet.
Ooh, that's fortunate. I will take that cap and pick it up.
So as you do so, he reaches out and he takes the cap from your hands and he thanks you and nods. And just before he does so, though, or just after he does so, though, he holds his hand as if to say, just wait a moment. And then he steps over to another truck that is just pulled up. And leaning in through the passenger side, he makes a few jokes with the driver, who he's probably seen 100 times before, and then he slams he pats the side of the truck a couple times, and you hear the engine sort of rev, and then it heads into the Commonwealth Pier offloading area. Then he comes back. Sorry about that. How can I help you, fellas there? And he yawns. Ugh.
I have a mild look of annoyance at being in this dirty area. Kind of arms crossed with my right hand, the rings on it. I'm trying to keep it in the sun, just come off a little wealthier than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Stylish enough, but certainly a little dingier than maybe what the merchant were trying to sell. But that's what I would look disapprovingly at this guy and let Murph take the lead.
And I'm going to step in and introduce myself.
Mm-hmm.
Frank Murphy. I'm with New York, Hartford, New Haven. I don't know if I got that right. Sorry. This isn't about the dialogue. It's about the rolling. The New York, New Haven,
Well,
and Hartford.
yeah, I won't. I'm not going to say exactly that. Let's just say that I factor your role play
Yes.
into the task difficulty.
I've been there for like 30 something years, so I wouldn't fumble in character. But I will say, I'm a watchman with the New York, New Haven, Hartford Railroad, and I've been tasked by my supervisor. Perhaps you know him, Conan O'Brien. He wants me to take this gentleman, and I'm going to lean in here and say,
Mr.
mind
O'Brien?
you, yes,
Mr. O'Brien? Do you know Mr.
familiar
O'Brien?
with him? He's a real ball buster.
Oh. And he looks in
Yeah.
awe of the fact that you just said that, as if perhaps he doesn't quite have the he doesn't have the seniority yet to say something like that. Oh my goodness, Mr. O'Brien. Well, he didn't. Was he supposed to have told me you were coming along?
This all happened too quickly.
He
this
starts
gentleman
like
I'm
flipping, even though you're speaking. He starts like flipping through his clipboard. What was your
Yep.
name again? Did you say your name? You said your name. What was your name?
with. Yep, Frank Murphy.
Murphy.
I'm a watchman here. Yep.
Murphy.
You're not going to find it in there. I'm going to put my hand, my large-ish hand, right down on his paperwork. This gentleman I'm with is very important. He's just shown up out of the blue. He's thinking about buying that carpet warehouse just outside here, and he wants to inspect the pier, the Commonwealth Pier, where he'll get his shipments. O'Brien sent me down here. I'd rather be sitting around enjoying a hangover, but here I am, and I need to get this guy in and shape up. He's looking at you.
I
Who?
yawn.
He's like, who's looking at me? And he tucks his like his
Our
pockets
merchant
in
friend right
and
here.
makes sure, pulls his
The
hat down. He's
wealthy
like,
one.
oh man, oh wow, okay. Well, I'm not sure about this because Mr. O'Brien told me not to let anyone in unless they were on the registry here and on the plan. I'm gonna have to talk to the job boss on this one. But don't worry, I'll ring him up real quick.
Have at it.
And you're gonna let him do this?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty confident. I'm
All
ready.
right.
I'm ready to go in.
I am nervous about this.
You've
And
made
I
a
step
choice
in.
though, haven't you? Oh, okay.
What?
Go ahead.
Um,
That's his.
I
That's the
snap my
sound of-
fingers a couple times at him. Oh, here they
stops.
come. They're
Dear
on to
God.
I
us.
know. That's
Dear
what I was
God.
thinking.
What's your
Um,
name? And I'm talking to this watchman.
He's now like moving his head between both you and Vesper. Like he's kind of confused by the two of you just sort of telling him to go get the
It's-
job boss, but then coming out and like being told to snap and pay attention to Vesper. So he's
I'm
like,
being told by our client here that we've got no time to waste.
Okay. Well, I was going to go do it. I was going to go check, but now we're wasting time because you made me walk back to say I'm going to go check.
There's no more time.
Okay.
I'm going to persuade you that we need to be put through right now.
Well, he looks a little bit nervous when you say that, but still he's suddenly filled with a little bit more energy, the way that this, like when you feel a bit threatened, it sort of wakes you up.
You'd better get some adrenaline.
But he's probably not feeling necessarily threatened. He's just feeling like he's being put in a position where he really needs to sort of figure out what he's going to do here. Well, let me just go really quick. It's not a big deal. I can just go ring him up, and I'll talk to the job boss. And I'm sure. I mean, you know Mac, right? I mean, obviously you've been out here before. If
I'm
you
going to
know
look
Mr.
back
O'Brien.
at Vesper and say, can we wait for this?
Oh, really? We're really in a terrible hurry. And besides, and I'm gonna try spinning my identity on this guy,
Mm-hmm.
and just cast it and be, I'm his shift supervisor.
Okay. And tell me how you're going to do this then. So you're casting your
Spin
ability.
identity.
Mhm.
Um,
Spin identity.
Where is it? Please plus it. All right, great.
Mm-hmm.
And I will convince an intelligent creature who can see, hear, understand that I am someone other than who I am, not necessarily a specific individual. So I'm going to go with the role of, say, a shift supervisor. And I will use my persuading skill
Yeah.
and a level of effort, of int effort.
Okay, so you're going to do a 3 application special.
16.
Nice. So with that, he stops for a moment, and the combination of you being a supervisor and inspect what was it exactly that you were?
Shift supervisor.
Ship supervisor.
Shift.
Oh, shift supervisor. Okay, got it. And the fact that Murphy is here dropping names like
Barking.
Conan O'Brien is enough to stop him in his tracks.
I'm going to just pile onto it with that persuasion there. And just now that he's considering me like that, I'll just say, "You've done well here, son, today. We thought we'd try to deceive you and get our way in, and you held firm to make a call. But we do have business here, so we'll be on our way regardless."
He looks like he's going to try and interrupt like 3 times, but he's just too mesmerized by what you have to say. And at a certain point, his finger just stays up in the air, his mouth open,
We walk right past.
Yeah, we're walking.
and he continues to kind of look forward, and you hear a vehicle beeping behind him. He's standing right in the way, and the beeping eventually wakes him up. And anyone watching, and that might be Z, anyone watching would see him kind of shake his head a few times as if he couldn't quite remember what he was doing, but then he hustles over very quickly to this next truck, which is just pulled up. So let's go to you, Z, at this point. So that is probably a very good moment for you to make your move. And we'll say, is there anything you want to do in preparation? Because you do have, I mean, we can call that whole exchange less than a minute or so, but you'd have a minute or so to sort of prep something.
Yeah. So are we in daylight? What time of day is it right now?
I had assumed that it is somewhere in mid-afternoon or so, but I'm totally willing, because we hadn't established it, and it's really not, at this point, it's not that important. We can say whatever it is for you guys.
Yeah, I'm just kind of keeping a track of where the trucks are going when they come through the gates, and then how many trucks total? There were 2?
Yeah, there were 2 that came in, and you'd have to look in there and kind of look down through the gate and see 3 or 4 ships down is what you know is the Vodetter. And the Vodetter is, by, to your eyes, is actually a regular Earth ship. Looking it over, it's actually, we'll say that it's a ship from, we'll say it's from Spain. And it looks like it's it's painted in the livery of a Spanish vessel, and so, but you kind of marked it after both Vesper and Dietrich have pointed it out to you.
Okay. I want. Oh, go ahead. No, I want to make sure that I'm actually wearing my collar, because if I do get spotted, I want to use that as kind of the
Absolutely.
the disguise. But other than that, I've still got my satchel with me, and I'm just gonna try to sneak through probably that side door that you had mentioned.
Yeah, you could absolutely give that a try. And what you notice as this exchange happens is that there's a truck that pulls up, and it's the truck that we just saw honking. There is a truck that pulls up to the entranceway and just waits at that gate while this exchange kind of transpires between the 3 of them, your 2 friends and the security guard. And so as you're sneaking up to the door, is there anything in particular you would like to do in order to sort of make it look as normal and non, as anything you want to do not to stick out?
I do have a sneaking skill,
Mm-hmm.
and so I would like to use that. I would also like to take advantage of the fact that the guard is completely entranced and quite literally
Yeah,
entranced by these
absolutely.
two,
Yeah.
and just make my way and push the door open.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead and make your roll then.
sure.
We're easing the task by 2.
I rolled an 8.
An 8 is good enough to get you through the door, and it's just alarmingly easy. You would maybe even expected there to be a lock of some sort, but the padlock actually is not even affixed, and you just simply walk right through. And what's strange, though, is that there is a little bit of a feeling that you've gone from one place to another. You're now in this busy working industrial area where trucks are going back and forth, and men in, basically stevedores and longshoremen and all of that are kind of marching back and forth, carrying crates and, shouting orders to each other. And in this flurry of activity, it just feels sort of like you could kind of do whatever you wanted at this point. What are you up to?
I want to make my way as close to the ship as I can without attracting attention.
Okay, so we're going to flip to Dietrich at this point, who, with a bird's eye view of all of this, gets to see that all 3 of the other members of your team get in safely. Now, is there anything that you would like to do in order to help them out? You're all, from what you can kind of tell, you're all within octocom distance, so you could communicate with them if you'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to call out patterns, movements, who could be around, how did he can avoid detection. Absolutely.
Okay, so what we'll do, because this is all theater of the mind, is we will just say that you are monitoring that carefully. So you've been given a sort of pointed out to you who the Boston Police Department undercover flatfoots are, and you also have an eye on who the Vagavurians are. But here's what I'm going to have you do is I think that as we go, rather than have you roll successfully for individuals, I'm just going to have you make kind of general rolls every step of the way as people kind of, as your compatriots thread their way through. So why don't we have you make a roll for me right now, and this roll is just generally going to represent your instructions to all of them and your grasp of who's where and whatnot, and then that's going to affect their turns as they enter in. So how do you want to ease the task for this?
I got I got a lot of things I can do.
I figured you would. So Jared, can you tell us what level or what tier is everyone at this point?
We are 1 advancement into tier 4.
Okay, cool. So for those of
spending your points.
Yeah, right. So for those of you watching at home, I made a choice, and we all kind of talked about this. We decided that each player would be given 1 advancement per game that we play. So each one gets basically 4 XP, and whether they spend those XP or not, that's something, or how they spend it, that's something different. But theoretically, if they'd been taking advancements each time, they should be 1 advancement into tier 4. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. So go ahead and let's see what you got.
All right. Well, I'll give you what I'm going to do to roll, and then I'll give you the cheat code.
Okay, great.
Okay. Yep.
Up, left.
Right. What I'm going to do to roll is number 1, I am trained in perception.
Got it.
Number 2, I am specialized in tasks that are related to figuring out how to solve problems with multiple solutions.
Got it. And specialized, ladies and gentlemen, is 2 easings of the task.
Right. And I can also pay it forward, which I can suggest an action, and that person can then have their action eased for a minute. So
You can
I may not apply to this
suggest it.
roll.
Wait. You can suggest it from. Oh, okay. You can suggest it from afar because you're on the Octocom. Okay.
I'm on the Octocom.
And will that work even though you've just. Didn't you just suggest something to Murphy earlier, or did we withdraw that?
It was to Frank, but I think he actually withdrew it.
Okay. Close enough. That's fine.
In addition to that, I will take 2 levels of effort and intellect. Yep. So,
ladies and gentlemen, I think this is our first task eased by 6.
Yeah.
So
okay.
with this roll, he's going to invent the microchip.
Right. Basically, yeah. He's suddenly a van with
Amazing.
Microchip, the character from The Punisher, is going to appear and radio orders all to you, to every one of. Okay, go ahead. Give me your roll. That's a pretty. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, I am making him roll for this, even with 6 levels.
I only rolled a 10, but if you want the cheat code, the cheat code is, of course, expert skill. I can auto succeed on any skill I'm trained in. Thank you, Monty Cook.
Damn you, Monty Cook.
I don't feel like I had the same rule book. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
What's that one?
That is a tier 4 explorer trait called expert skill.
You know what I feel like? If the rule book were a washcloth, Jared would be just wringing out every molecule of water from it, just right now, into like a bucket, and he would probably be able to survive on just the water from a washcloth for like a week in the desert. So at any rate,
okay,
it's right there, right?
I'm not going to say whether or not Jared succeeded, because that would ruin the next round of activity. Let's go back to Murphy, and because there's got to be some sort of suspense. So let's go back to Murphy and Vesper, who are now deep in it. And so you have just crossed the threshold into Commonwealth Piers loading and unloading zone dock. And so now you're out in the same thick of things the way that Z is. And looking around, you see people moving to and fro here and there. You do, Murphy, now have a clearer view of a few of those flatfoots, and you're steering clear of them. And you, Vesper, also have kind of a rough idea of where the Vagavurians are based on what Dietrich has sort of octocommed down to you. And you can't quite see who they are because you don't have the same vision. But what you do notice is that maybe, that guy there that's dressed like in overalls and with like the scruffy kind of look and the hat, he's moving in a strange kind of way. That might be, maybe he's not quite human. And then you notice another person like that's maybe communing with another person who's clearly someone from Earth, an Earther. And you can just sort of get the feel that this creature is not looking at the Earther as if the Earther were an equal. So the two of you, as you move along, are avoiding any sort of encounters with anything or anyone that might otherwise impede you. Is there a certain particular direction you want to go in, or a place you're looking for, or a person?
Well, Vesper, who did you want to touch base with?
I like how you ask that question after you get through the gate. You're like,
No,
I
he
thought
had a
you wanted
plan.
to touch base with someone.
No.
yeah. At that precise moment, Mars the cat is going to appear at my leg as we're just
Meow.
walking along. And I'm moving in the direction that I wanted to go towards one of these narcs, feds. And
You call them everything except, just call them flatfoots.
5 foot. Oh,
Every
okay.
time you say that,
Undercover
narratively, I get confused because I'm like, are they feds? Maybe I should make
We've
them
layered
feds.
in a whole different set of agents.
Right.
Unbeknownst to
surveilling
the
law
game master.
enforcement agents.
Call them Leos.
Leos.
Yes, I'm moving towards a Leo, who I recall was fairly not necessarily in eyesight of all the other ones, and hanging
Sure.
out.
Sure.
And I'm just gonna say, this fellow right over here, Mars. Why don't you go make a new friend? Why don't you? And I'm gonna send her ahead to just kind of sidle up to the guy and maybe do the little twirl at his leg.
And that's
And,
exactly what happens is Mars trots up to this Flatfoot, and as grizzled and kind of like rough around the edges as he looks, his heart of gold cannot resist a little cat, and he kneels down and starts petting Mars, watching, just admiring her beauty and talking baby talk with her. Is there anything in particular you wanted to glean out of this, or is it a simple distraction?
This is a distraction for us to basically be able to walk up. So, and as we do, I'll answer Murphy as you'll really have as much authority as you need to ask anything you need. So, let's have some fun with it. And I'm going to walk straight up to this guy and use grand deception
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
to convince this intelligent creature that can understand me and isn't hostile of something that is wildly and obviously untrue. And I'm going to walk straight up to him and say, Randall, I'm the deputy commissioner and I need your report immediately.
All right. And so, anything else to ease this task? I like where you're going with it.
Yeah.
I don't know how Murphy feels. Like, Murphy's probably like, oh my God.
The reports do?
Wait, yeah, he's like, oh,
I
I
haven't
didn't
done
do
it
my
yet.
report.
Jesus, here it is.
Oh no, here you go, sir. I didn't know you worked for the department, Vesper.
Luckily, it's
Taking a
target.
turn.
It's not area of effect. I will use the skill of deceiving, of which I am specialized in.
Nice.
Let's see there. I'm going to use 2 levels of int effort.
Wow, you guys are just getting you go up to tier 4 and you're just getting fast and furious with it.
That's it.
All right, so the grand deception that and as an asset, I'm going to use my sheer hubris of just walking up to this guy.
Okay.
Well, and as an
telling him what's up.
addendum to that, since you're walking up, I'll be right behind you, offset like a lieutenant or someone who follows you around. But I'll
I
also
have a yes, man.
increase my size to be a little bit more imposing, and yet still behind you.
Well, I was just going to say at 6 levels, it's safe to say you don't have to roll for this fight. But if you want to spend that, Frank, you can do that. Frank's like, no, I withdraw my suggestion.
There's no rolling involved. I'm just doing it.
This fellow like just sort of snaps to, and he looks at you, and there's a moment where you can you see this, Murphy. It looks like he's about to salute, but then he remembers he's actually undercover, and he doesn't.
I'm going to play along with it. No. We need to make this look natural.
He looks around. You need, what do you need to know, sir?
Don't look at me. Look over there.
Oh, over there,
Quiet.
over there. You just happen to get a guy that loves to sing a cappella. Go ahead.
This isn't the theater, Randall. I'm also trying to convince him his name is Randall. But
Then he's...
But listen,
please, sir, call me Randy. Everyone does.
you're so important that it is Randall.
very good. Randall. This here is Mr. O'Donnell. What I need from you is a briefing on what your mission is, what progress you have made, the other agents in the area, and anything else you'd like to tell me that isn't theater related. Begin.
And so he starts to spill his guts at this point, and he tells you that there are 4 other agents. Or, I'm sorry, forget I said agents. Now, this is why I didn't want you to call them feds. There are 4 other flatfoots. I like how James just smiles satisfied that he's screwed with my mind, and he's just slowly typing away.
One of the
taking
things
notes.
I like about this game is the player agency that we have.
One of the things I don't like about it is the player agency. How ironic. So he tells you, to the best of his abilities, there are 4 other flatfoots that are here. And they're all under the command of Sullivan Byrne. Of course, you already know this. And they are there to figure out exactly what's going on with the smuggling ring that has been bringing odd chemicals into Boston Harbor and shipping them not just to the distillery, but to other places around, other distilleries or other chemical plants around the New England area. He pauses for a moment. Did you need to know more than that? Or
Yes.
will that suffice?
Have you made any contacts? Have you learned any information beyond your mission?
All that I really know is what I learned at the briefing. And now he starts to look a little nervous. And I just know that something funny is going on down here. There have been stories about happenings, odd things, stories about shipments that are supposed to go to the distillery, but then other stories about the underground and the construction, and some of these chemicals being taken underground for something we don't really know what it is, why it's there, what's going on exactly. To be honest, I get the feeling like Sergeant Byrne just doesn't really want to know. Maybe he's almost scared of what's going on.
When he says underground, does it sound like underground, the capital U, or just like the underbelly, or what?
It sounds like yeah, that's actually a really good question. You'd have to ask him that. And he basically sort of leans forward and he says, "They didn't tell you?" In some cases, in most cases, when we say underground, we of course are speaking in the abstract, or we're speaking in metaphors. In this particular case, however, we mean it literally. There's something going on, and his eyes roll to the ground. Well, his eyes look to the ground. He gazes at the ground as he says, in this case, however, we mean literally the underground.
Have you discovered what's in the shipments?
Would he answer Murphy, or does he only answer to you?
It's O'Donnell.
He's with me, and I've made him think, oh, yeah, I said it was O'Donnell. And he's with me. He must have some authority, as if I'm the deputy commissioner traveling with this dude.
What did you want to know, sir?
Have you been able to break into the shipments and find out what they're moving?
Not yet. We don't dare do something like that, but we had been planning something very soon. Right now, we're just trying to figure out where the network goes. We're also trying to work things out with the feds. We don't have authority on the Pacific. Of course not on the Pacific, because the Pacific is California. We don't have authority on the Atlantic to go out there. But the feds do. We're working on getting that arranged. but we know something's going on offshore. Chemicals of some sort. These crates too, are coming in. They're being taken to the distillery, taken down to the train yard, shipped across the country. We'd been planning over the next few days, well, let's just say to acquire a crate to figure out exactly what's in it. But these things don't show up on any manifests, and they don't show up in any legitimate, these agencies, the companies that are sending them and receiving them, don't show up in any legitimate books. Not here in the United States, anyway.
Can I interject over the Octagon?
Yeah, I don't see why not. You would probably
Okay.
be listening in.
Hey, Murph, ask if anything gets transported out, or is it only in?
What's... I
Imports,
worry...
exports.
On the ships.
It's for my future business.
That is true. It's
I
very
can know
relevant.
how to do
It's
it.
actually very relevant. He tells you that stuff is coming and going. He says that barrels go out, crates
Come
come
in.
in.
Randall,
And that
do
is
you know,
indeed what's happening.
do you know where Sergeant Byrne is right now?
Sure. And he hooks his thumb over to the right. And Sergeant Byrne, sure enough, is walking up to all three of you right now. And with that, we will cut to Z. I like how nobody was like rolling to like pay any attention to whether or not anyone had noticed you.
Well,
talking to
apparently
this
our
guy.
eyes in the sky is just trying to find out how to run his future business.
He's got to
I
make.
thought that was implied that
He's
I was
gotta-
looking out and would have been able to
he's-
have seen it.
Let's just say that it's an auto success sometimes. So at any rate, let's go to Z for right now. Z, what are you up to?
I was making my way over as close as I can to the ship
Mm-hmm.
to see if I can see what is actually coming over. What's actually coming over. How do you say it? Like coming off of the ship,
Mm-hmm.
and basically just see what the activity is.
So at this point, it's pretty easy for you, just sort of, walking casually, to walk through what's going on. And the one thing I do want to state, though, is that it's not normal for someone with a collar, such as yourself, to be moving across the dock here. So there are people that every so often kind of stop and give you a double take, and maybe even a few of them that kind of nod to you in solidarity, probably sharing a similar belief. And so as you make your way, you come to the two trucks, which are backed up at this enormous ship that looks like it's from Spain. For you, looking at the stevedores, the longshoremen as they load and unload, they look perfectly human. As they unload the crates from the ship, coming down like gangplanks, some of them, and then others, there are cranes that are moving crates, moving pallets of crates from the ship itself down to the dock. And to you, they look normal. And it's almost kind of weird you think to yourself, why are we making such a big deal of these? They don't look like Vagaburians, but you have to sort of remind yourself that this is something that Dietrich and Vesper can kind of detect and see. So at this point, they seem pretty much wrapped up in what they're doing. There seems to be someone that's kind of overseeing all of this, maybe a supervisor of some sort. And he's kind of barking orders every so often and keeping people in line. And he's got a clipboard himself, and he's dressed in, the jumpsuit that you might have seen at Purity Distilling with the logo and all that on it. And then, sure enough, there's another group of fellas who seem to be representing the Boston Standard Shipping Company, and they're all working. How would you like to approach getting a better look? I assume is what you want to do.
Yeah, I want to sneak around. I'm assuming that there's stacks of crates and pallets that I could maybe be able to hide behind.
Yes, you could absolutely do that. I won't even make you roll. You could kind of come in from making a wide arc around and behind the trucks themselves, and then kind of go out to the pier, and then come walking along, and you're kind of getting closer now.
Can I see into the hold of the ship at all?
No, it looks like the crane, it looks like the entryway for the hold is on the deck itself. The crane is offloading. Having said that, however, on the sides of the ship, you do see that there are a few large, just immense doors where they could offload if they wanted to, and they could like be brought down and be actually used as ramps, but they're not being used at this time.
Okay. I will radio Octo Radio TBD and say, do you see anything from your vantage point that looks of interest that I should be scoping out over here, TBD?
And TBD, what you see is someone, not necessarily Sullivan Byrne, but I think if Murphy and Vesper have kind of heard what the security guard just said, you see someone break off one of those flatfoots and start walking toward, from behind, Vesper and Murphy. So now would be probably your time, I assume, to warn them.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Hey guys, incoming on your 6.
And that's exactly the moment that the security guard hooks his thumb over. So kind of all of you are together at this point as far as, audially goes. You're free to sort of discuss what you want to do. I'll give you like 30 seconds maybe before he comes in.
I immediately I drop my voice. You need to keep my cover here, son. There are dark and deep things happening here. We can't let it go outside of this triangle right here, the 3 of us.
I do have Vesper. Byrne is looking for me. He knows who I am. I'm assuming we know each other and have bumped into each other. He's been on the force. I've been off it for years, but still have those connections. He's going to recognize me.
That was very natural. So as you were saying that, I was about to say, I just want to remind Murphy that he knows Sullivan Byrne, so that you could interrupt, but he interrupted before I could say that. So mission accomplished as far as that goes.
He's been to O'Brien, for God's sakes.
Got about 20 seconds now before he's there. I mean, you have a chance. He hasn't seen your faces because you're facing away.
Then Murphy, you better get out of here.
Nice.
Run!
I limp. I don't have the speed to do that. I think I have to confront him. I'm no longer, so I will peel back. You can continue to talk to your buddy, and I'm going to immediately turn around and confront my old friend or acquaintance. I wouldn't say we hang in the same circles. Sullivan Byrne, Sergeant Byrne.
So you're basically running interference, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to give Vesper a little bit of time. And I'll give you 10 more seconds. Is Vesper now on his own to investigate while you distract Byrne, or are you going to somehow all work together?
I'm hoping Vesper can read the cues as to how this is going and decide to run like hell or sneak away or do whatever, or join in the fracas. But the one thing I know is that Byrne has questions or wants to talk to me. And so that's now suddenly my whole purpose for being here inside the gate.
So as Byrne strides up behind the two of you, Murphy, you end up turning and you close the distance, maybe halving it as he approaches, and you get a bird's eye view of this Dietrich as it's happening. And maybe, like if you're at the edge of a roof, maybe you're sort of grabbing onto the tiles, the tiles of the roof, just like gritting your teeth and wondering exactly what's going to happen. And you see the two of them. You need that. If you had popcorn, it would be very entertaining, and it's unfortunate that you're going to have to hear everything through the Octocom. But as the distance closes, you see Byrne as he steps up to Murphy, and he stops for just a moment. And then, Vesper, are you quickly saying something while this is taking place?
Yes. I am going to tell Randall.
Yeah. I like how you're buying time. These are the telltale signs of like a student that I've called on that doesn't have an answer. Jimmy, what's the answer for number 3? Well, looking at number 3.
Let me bring it into a more adult corporate context. That is a very good question. And let me take that question and ask something of you. All right. So, yes, strangely, I'm not that quick, but
okay.
I'll lean into Randall very quickly.
We got to keep this on the up and up, right?
You're going to need to cover for me.
Okay. Well, yeah,
Don't
of
tell
course.
anyone of our conversation today.
Yeah.
And I may try to find you at another time, and I want some concrete information. There is much at stake.
Got it.
Why don't you join those two right now and speak nothing?
Oh, okay.
Spoken of here.
All right. Yeah. And so your effect lasts for what, a minute or so?
No, it doesn't say. I've just convinced this guy of a grand deception.
It does. Yeah, good answer. The judges will accept that answer.
That's the way I interpreted it, that this guy is convinced.
Yep. And with that, he just turns. Actually, he doesn't turn. He just nods to you as if you're kind of both on the same page. And he strides right past you, doing his duty. I'm going to
stroll off with Mars into the sunset.
The two of you stroll off on your own. Now, we're back to you, Z. You're up to the crates at this point, and you've just taken a look up at the top of the deck of the ship. And actually, as you look up, staring down at you, can you guess
Handsman.
who is staring down at you? Oh, try it again. That's both wrong answers. I wish I could do the Family Feud
Monsignor.
Monsignor is
Zeitweber.
No.
Here's a ticket.
Oh my God! You can't guess. Starts with a P.
Priscilla?
Pascal?
No.
Priscilla.
Oh my God!
How many P names did we come
Who's
up
been
with?
following? I tried to create an exciting moment where, like, staring down at you is the man that has been following you.
Oh, the Puritan.
Since the beginning of this adventure. And you see
Okay.
him oddly staring down from the top deck of the ship. And no one seems to be taking notice of him at all. But he looks down at you. Can you describe him to us? He's your character, your NPC, your creation. Do you want to tell us what he looks like?
So he would look like a 17th century Puritan with the black garb and the not pointy hat but the taller hat.
Sure.
And the white cuffs and what you would imagine like a Thanksgiving pilgrim kind of look.
Yeah.
The powdered wig and very dour expression, maybe a little bit pudgy, a little bit thick. And
he's staring down at you right now, and from the distance that you're at, you can't quite see what his expression is, but you imagine it's what you've seen half a dozen or a dozen times before.
Mm-hmm. Do I notice any way up the any way up to where he is?
Several anchors if you jumped across the deck. There are also, in addition to the anchors that are set, there are several, oh boy, I forget what the heck they're called. I researched all this stuff beforehand and now I've forgotten. But there are several enormous chains that are essentially tethering the ship to the dock. And you imagine that they're probably something else based on the fact that this is not actually a ship. This is a Vagavurian ship. It's not an Earther ship. But they appear to you to be enormous chains. There is also actually further up, there's a gangway that goes up, and it's traveled every so often by basically the supervisors or the people in charge, or maybe a messenger running back and forth between the ship and the dock. But you would have to go back around the trucks and then kind of make your way up to that point if you wished to traverse it.
I'm going to try something different. So he's staring at me, right?
He's looking at you right now, and people are walking, the stevedores and longshoremen are walking back and forth as if you weren't there. Don't worry, Steve. We're just live on YouTube. Just take your time.
I'm reading the rule book here.
Huh.
I am going to burst into flame.
Right now.
Oh.
Now. And
Like
I
it.
am going to use a power called the Fiery Hand of Doom,
Nice.
which allows me to create a fiery hand that I can control and direct.
Yep.
And I'm going to send it up and try to grab this guy.
Okay, so let me just sort of make sure of this. When you say that you burst into flame, as if there
Correct.
can be like various
Yeah.
interpretations of this, but within the scope of a role-playing game, I suppose there could. Are you just standing right there? You're in kind of a spot where no one sees you, at least from this
Right.
angle, but the people behind you down the dock or whatever, and maybe walking around, they're going to see you. That's okay.
Yeah, at this point,
Yep.
this has been this being has been haunting me for, God knows how many years, and I've got my chance to confront him, and I'm not going to miss it. So, stealth is out the window.
Got it.
This is
And
our
then-
undercover man.
Right. Right. No one would ever suspect the man that's on fire. No one. So you burst into flame, and the moment this happens, what's interesting is that there aren't shouts, there aren't cries of like alarm.
There's
There-
shouts on the Octagon.
There
I'm
are.
screaming.
That's true. Yeah,
I'm
maybe.
screaming, fire! He's on fire!
Oh shit!
Flame on!
Our undercover guy is on fire. He's on fire. So the moment you burst into flame, what you get are a lot of people that are kind of stevedores that are just stop for a moment. And they drop their lunch or their snack that they're eating. They drop their clipboard. A few of them drop a crate or two. And I'm not talking about the ones that are offloading it, because you're behind the crates. So those guys that are transporting stuff back and forth on the ship, they haven't seen you yet, but the people behind you on the other ships have. They drop what they're doing. Even one crate, like just slowly and like in slow motion, tumbles end over end and splashes down into the ocean or into the bay, Massachusetts Bay. And suddenly you hear a voice call out, "Fire!" And all around, everyone starts to drop what they're doing. And now this is kind of like something that they all are trained in, at least in 1918 standards. Fire, even if they weren't trained in, would be something that they're incredibly wary or incredibly concerned with. There aren't, the fire departments that we would have these days to take care of it. And a fire breaking out on a pier is like potentially it could destroy half a city if it were just left to burn on its own. And you hear fire repeated over and over and over again all throughout the entire pier. And up on the ship, though, that Puritan is just staring at you. And that hand, what was it called? Hand of Doom, did you say?
It's the fiery hand of doom.
The fiery hand of Doom does what you want it to do, which is
go and reach out and try to grab him.
It reaches out. Is it human sized or is it larger? Or
no, it's larger. It's let's see. It's a hand. It's twice the size of a human's hand.
Go ahead and get the fiery hand of Doom. Is there anything else you want to do with this? What I'm considering to be an attack roll. Anything else you want to do to ease the task?
I'll use effort.
1 or 2 levels.
2 levels. And
any assets or another ability that you have, perhaps?
Let me see if there's anything.
Or a skill, for that matter.
Are you trained in using it?
No, there's no other skill will apply. Yeah, so that's
all right.
it.
Go ahead and make a roll.
All right. And on a 1, I burn the entire city of Boston to the ground.
This is the part where
a 16.
Please.
Very good.
16. What you
One
see is that hand double. It starts out and you reach out with your hand and it's almost as if you're throwing your hand directly at that Puritan, and the flames separate from your hand and then cruise forward steadily and grow, doubling in size, in going straight for the Puritan, who does not move, does not even blink. The flames hit him directly and simply go right through him and evaporate. And he continues to stare down at you.
So he doesn't evaporate. The flames evaporate.
The flames evaporate. And after this happens, he shakes his head. And we'll cut back to Murphy and Vesper. And at this point, Vesper, you've run off on your own. Murphy, you have just been joined by the security guard as you confront Sullivan Byrne. And the moment this happens, you just hear the cry of fire repeated over and over and over again. And the screams like a little girl of your buddy Dietrich up watching from his perch on the roof of a nearby building as he yells into the octocom that Z is on fire. So when that happens, Sullivan, who you had just locked eyes with, Sullivan does a double take, looking around. He knows this as well. Fires in 1918 are not
take
like
out half of the district.
Yes. So at that point, what you see is just workers all running in a general direction down toward your buddy. And Sullivan looks back at you, and he looks very concerned at this point. And it seems like he's raises his hand and points his finger at you. Where have you been, son?
I've been out of commission, Sully. I'm back, and O'Brien sent me down here. He said you wanted to talk to me.
God damn it, he curses, and he starts looking around. And he's looking around at his officer, the security guard or the undercover Flatfoot.
Agent.
Yeah, please don't say that. Whoever this fella is, he gives him a hard, cold look, and then grabs him by the scruff of his jacket, and then he stops for a moment, realizing again that he's undercover, and he shakes his head. You two, I cannot believe, of all the places to run into you, God damn it, I need to talk to you, but I can't talk to you here. We need to seriously talk about this. Right now, he just looks like he's at the end of his rope, and he's very upset to see you here at this point.
You got to go. Where and when can we meet up?
He points. Meet me in half an hour. Meet me outside the gate. We'll talk there. And then
the main gate? Just making sure. There's two gates.
There's two gates. There's two? Really? He looks confused. He tells you what gate to meet at, and you understand what he's talking about. And then he zips off, along with, he grabs his fellow Flatfoot, his associate, and then heads off. So they're all heading towards that. So what are you up to at this point? You know what? Why don't we do this? I actually think this is better. This is a good cliffhanger moment. So let's take our 10-minute break. For those of you that are watching at home, which is, I guess, everyone that's watching because we're all at home these days, now that I think about it. If you like what you see, thank you. We're glad you like it. If you could maybe like and subscribe, that would be even better. If you're already subscribed, if you could subscribe 17 more times, that would be wonderful. We would all appreciate that. The algorithms would be in our favor. Thanks so much. Oh, my God. Did somebody... I saw a light go down and then go back up. I cannot believe it.
I know who that is.
I know exactly who that is. That's
my
one of our...
favorite Rule Smith.
That's my second
that's
favorite
right.
joke.
And so with that, we're going to go on a 10-minute break. We will be back in 10 minutes. Until then, I want you to enjoy the musical stylings of Eric J. Stone, who has composed our 10-minute intermission music. We will be right back, folks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back from our biological break. So when last we left our heroes, Z, our seminarian, had literally burst into flame on the docks of Commonwealth Pier in Boston, Massachusetts in 1918, November of 1918. And sent a flaming hand of doom. Was that what it was called?
Correct. Fiery hand of doom.
A fiery hand of doom at a shadow that had been haunting him for many years now. A Puritan, a man dressed as a Puritan who was standing on the deck of a ship that he was investigating. Unfortunately, however, the moment he burst into flames, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, when he burst into flames, every single stevedore, longshoreman, sailor, or ne'er-do-well, or roughneck on the docks had run immediately to help put out the fire. So that's where we kind of left ourselves last. And so we can pick up. I'm actually going to go to Dietrich for a moment because quite a few, not much time, 10, 15 seconds have just transpired. Are you doing anything from your perch on a building that overlooks Commonwealth Pier as you watch what's going on below?
I'm not going to change positions at the moment. I'm going to continue to call out what's happening to everybody, just because Steve is apparently in the zone. I want to make sure that Z knows exactly what's coming at him for the repercussions of these actions.
Okay, got it. So I will just sort of take that tack when I'm working with the other two scenes. So let's go back to you then, Murphy. So Sullivan Byrne has just gone off to help out his buddies. Vesper has split off and he's kind of looking for a place to hide and kind of investigate, and he's checking around. But what are you going to do the moment that the moment that Sullivan Byrne runs to help put out the fire?
I'm going to just key into Vesper.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Vesper, is everything okay? Do you need me?
Before I respond,
Mm-hmm.
is it right now like just a very hectic situation? Everyone's reacting.
Chaos.
Yeah.
All right, good. Then I'll talk back on that. Now's a good chance. We can find what's in these crates. Let's get to one of the trucks.
I've got 30 minutes. Let's meet up and get this done.
So with
right.
that,
I wanna check in or call up to TBD. Like, give us a straight shot to one of these crates coming off the Woe to Tear.
so then TBD, why don't you go ahead and make us a roll for that? So you're looking for a good pathway between your two partners in crime, well, two of your partners in crime, and one of the crates that they're investigating to get them around.
All right. So then I will only use one level of effort this time and only ease it by 5 levels.
Oh,
The same 5 as last time.
conservative.
With an 18.
As an 18, a very nice roll. You're able to relay to your two partners a nice, safe way to get them there. So on the ground, you can kind of see them dodging and moving left and right as they avoid certain obstacles in their path. Z, you're completely on fire, and everyone on the dock essentially is running toward you right now. You've just shot a massive, what probably other people didn't see as a hand. They probably just saw as like a fireball, kind of like exploding outward. And now everyone is heading in your direction, including some confused-looking stevedores and longshoremen as they unload or as they load up the truck. But the thing that you notice now, perhaps, is that, well, you're reminded of the fact that these are probably not humans. These are probably Vagavurians, because they've just stopped and they're kind of staring at the flames of you
Mm-hmm.
as the dock closes a circumference around you, a perimeter.
I turn to whoever's there and I say, back away and you won't be hurt.
There are a half a dozen men that have just stopped in their tracks, and they do a double take, looking to each other. And then one of them leans forward. One of them looks maybe a little bit better put together than the others, not necessarily in charge. Guys, did you just hear what I heard? And there's a bit of a chatter where they look at each other. And he steps forward, cocking his head to the left and then to the right. He's listening and looking at you. And then he locks eyes with you, Z. My God. My God. And he rushes forward, looking like he's about to jump on you, and he's pulling off his coat. And in that fraction of a second, what you realize is that he thinks you're on fire, and he's going to put out the fire. And unless you do something to stop him, he's about to just throw his jacket over you and probably pull you to the ground. So are you...
I'm going to extinguish the flames myself and say, back away.
So as you extinguish the flames, I need you to make a roll on this. How many times have you burst into flames? I know this is an odd thing to ask, but in your lifetime...
This is the second time under the control.
Mm-hmm.
And it had happened 3 times before that.
Okay, so this is the second time under control. All right, so you're still a little bit loose with this. Is that correct?
Yep.
I think we can say. You're not quite as experienced as you would be. So go ahead and make me a roll and tell me how you want to do this, like any sort of easing of the task that you'd like to do.
I'll expend effort on it.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
And what am I making a roll for, to avoid him,
the roll is how quickly you can extinguish these flames, basically.
Okay.
In other words, I'm asking you to do something that you're not quite experienced with, and I want to see how quickly and well you can do it.
Got it. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think I have any other tricks for that. Mm-hmm. So I'll use the effort, and I will roll another 16.
Another 16, not bad. So as he comes leaping at you with his jacket, the flames go out. And perhaps there's even a smell of smoke as he just hits you hard, but catches you within the confines of his jacket and knocks you to the ground, and you even bump your head on a nearby crate. And he is just trying his best to smother those flames and keep them out. And he rolls you around, and as this is happening, it's basically he's trying to smother these flames, which have just gone out. And now there's this clear smell of smoke and almost like gunpowder and singed wood, as he basically just sort of like he's pushing you down against the dock itself. And with that, a group of men suddenly arrive standing around you in a circle, and you look up at all of them as he pulls the jacket off, and everyone just is stunned into silence, because though there's smoke and ash and things like that kind of swirling about, and though the boards of the dock are singed clearly, your clothing looks fine, your hair is fine, your skin is fine, you're a bit disheveled from having been rolled around on the dock, but otherwise, he says, what's going on? That was close. He looks all around, and they look like they're questioning what they just saw. And the impression you get is they can't tell if the flames went out before he jumped on you or after he jumped on you in order to put them out. They're just staring now. They're completely in awe. It's like they have no idea what just happened. And more people are collecting. And a circle is forming, and now there's mumbles going through the crowd. And you can hear them mumbling. They're saying, he was on fire. He was on fire. You hear shouts for doctors.
I don't need a doctor.
They're all kind of shocked.
I'm fine.
He stands up and kind of backs off a little bit. This man was on fire, and and as this is happening, you can kind of hear someone, make way, make way, make way. And someone is pushing through the crowd, trying to get closer. And as they move in, the crowd parts. And a man with a bag, and he almost looks a little bit, he's probably somewhere in his late 40s, early 50s. He steps up to you wearing spectacles, and there's a quick exchange as the men are explaining that you had just burst into flame, and that this fellow right here had been quick thinking and jumped on top of you and, put the flames out. The doctor kneels down at you, and when he lowers his spectacles and when you connect with his eyes, you can see the disbelief in his eyes as he starts asking you questions about what happened, how you got to be this way, what's going on. Do you want to answer him or explain anything to him at all at this point?
I just want to. I turn to him and I point to the collar, and I say, "This was an act of faith. This is not a medical emergency. Don't worry about it."
When you're saying, they've all gotten quiet now, and the mumbles are going through the crowd. A lot of them, the ones in the front, all know that you were just clearly in flames beforehand, and then they're sending a story backward, and you can kind of hear some uneasy laughter from this crowd. The doctor stands up, and he just looks down at you, and he holds out his hands. You say this is an act of faith, and he looks at the man who just a moment before had doused what he thought were flames. And the man just shakes his head, and the dock worker this is no act of faith. This is a curse. I don't know what this is. I saw what happened. You were on fire. I don't know what this is. And he's looking at the doctor. I don't know what exactly is going on here. And they're waiting for your reply.
This I know it sounds strange. It seems hard to believe, but this is a blessing that I have from my God, It is not a curse, and I'm totally fine. Everybody here should be fine. And I look up and I see if the Puritan's still looking at me.
The Puritan is still watching you. And that is a very nice way to cut to Dietrich. And Dietrich, as you're looking down on all of this, you can see that circle that's formed of people around Z. And what you see now are you see what appear to be Vagavurians that are now starting to collect. And they look kind of casual, but they're starting to sort of push their way to the front as they continue to look and to continue to crowd around what has just happened. Are you doing anything about this?
Yes, I'm definitely gonna give him a notice. Z, the Vagaburians are pushing closer. So far, it's just humans around you. Do I see the Puritan? Is that someone I can see?
You do not.
Okay.
Well, okay, wait a minute. Let me ask this, and you can tell me this honestly. I'm asking this actually of Z. Z, did you mention the Puritan to Dietrich at all?
I don't think so.
So here's what I'm going to say. You're not necessarily looking the direction of the Puritan. So,
well, would I have seen what he was targeting the fire hand at?
You would have. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. All right, I get it. You do.
Okay.
But from the distance that you're at, you wouldn't see him as a Puritan. You just sort of see him as this figure. You don't make out the details. I had imagined the Puritan as being fairly far away on the edge of the deck. And now you are on a building that is, the width of the dock away and then a street away. And then looking, what you see is a figure and the Vagavurians, stevedores and longshoremen mixed with some humans that are loading and unloading the Vodetter.
Okay. But the point, I guess, is the Puritan is an actual corporeal being that is there that other people can interact with, and he's not a figment of his imagination or anything.
You see someone.
There is a target. There's something
up
there.
Yes.
Okay.
You do.
Okay. But do I don't have a good enough distinctive view to be able to recognize it again? Maybe not.
Human or Vagavurian, you're not quite sure. You can't see the details on this figure. It's farther away than anyone else. It's across and over, on the deck.
Okay.
Let's go with Murphy now and Vesper. So you two have kind of met up, and you're going to take a look at one of these crates, huh?
Yeah. And TBD was able to direct us there with pretty spectacular directions.
Mm-hmm. So you're able to thread your way through the crowd, and now so many people are gathered around Z that they don't notice the two of you as you just kind of casually walk up to an area where several crates on pallets have been tied down.
And there are also any barrels, or is this kind of a crate area?
This is the crate area.
Importing, exporting.
There is import and export. There were no barrels that were involved in this adventure at all tonight. No barrels were harmed in the making of this adventure tonight. You've only seen crates.
I'm going to rush up, and I'm pulling my knife out as I'm moving up.
I got this, Vesper. We're at a crate, right?
You're at a crate.
We're at a crate?
There's a pallet with I'm going to say 8 of them. there are like it's a 4 and a 4. It's 4 crates and 4 crates, maybe in a cube.
I put my knife back and
Yeah, I
I'm
put
going
his
to
arm
just
down.
keep an eye out.
Now is not the time for subtlety, and I'm going
Oh
to
boy.
use a crushing blow attack on the
Oh
crate.
boy.
All right.
It's a two-handed attack with fists.
That's one way to die.
Yeah, but before I do it,
Oh, okay.
because my
sure.
concern that there's encephalopowder in there is I will use my neckerchief and I will cover up just in case the
Nice.
powder is going to come out, and then
Yeah.
I'm just going to bash at the box. the
All
crate.
right. So here's what I want you to do. You're going to use that ability, correct?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you're going to do?
It only takes effect when I
Oh.
apply effort, which I can do. I can apply a level of effort, and it gives me an extra level. That's what the crushing blow does.
Oh, so when you say an extra, okay, I think I'm
levels of
trying to
effort.
So
So
it's 2 levels of it. Okay, we'll call it that just
Yeah.
for the sake of.
just for the crushing blow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know what the hell? No, I'll just use the 2 levels of effort.
Okay.
But I'm gonna just use my pent up frustrations and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and my meaty fists, which have
Yeah.
been thicker now because of the danishes and the bacon, and that'll just be what I consider an asset. But no skills involved. Wait. No, these are ranged attacks
I would
and defense
count.
tasks.
I would count the density of your head as an asset. I'm
If-
just kidding.
Could I do a head bash?
If
All
you
right, then
want,
just roll.
it can look
No.
any way you want. I'm totally fine with that.
I'm just cracking it with my fists for a 17.
Shit.
So what you witness, Dietrich, from on high,
Making
is
crates like a video game.
you had actually been watching. Yeah, right. Like just a bunch of coins go flying out, and you hear like a ringing. You hear that ringing bell, and then like they all fall on Vesper, and you see like this little. It goes like 100,
Takes
200,
out.
300, 400,
That's
500.
right.
So, what Dietrich sees is both Vesper and Murphy as they thread their way along a path that he just knew. He was so certain that it was no problem to get to that crate. And as the two of them approach, Vesper looks as if he's about to turn to Murphy and say, "So, what should we do?" But before
I was pulling my knife out. To
you
just
start
lever
pulling
a
your
box
knife out,
open.
but then but what you
He's
see
like, no.
is Murphy essentially
Murphy
describe what it looks
smash.
like.
It's not even hands. It's just like fists up and then just clobbering time down on top of the wooden crate.
So he brings his hands together like a monkey with cymbals and smashes the crate. And when he hits it, it actually has a surprising amount of strength and support to it. And what he ends up doing is bashing in one side of it, which caves in, and lumber tumbles and flies outward. And what you see, Dietrich, is something incredibly quick and fast launch itself as if launched out of a rocket out of the crate, slam straight into Murphy, knocking him backward. And then it just almost gallops at an incredible speed down the dock. And what it looks like to you is a tall, thin, humanoidish figure, pale of skin, with a large head shaped almost like a balloon, with a very small looking, what must be a mouth, some sort of odd orifice on the top of it. You, Murphy, just see something catapult out of the darkness at you.
And it's running on
Land-
2 legs.
It's running on two legs, but it's also kind of like doing that thing that you often see animals do, where they kind of gallop ahead, like a bipedal animal that is still, wrestling with a quadrupedal body. So it's kind of like rocking back and forth between wanting to just pump with its legs, but also using the advantage of moving forward with its two forearms. And it essentially just hits you, Murphy. And what you feel is a heavy weight that just sinks down into your chest, knocking the wind out of you. And you hear a screech as a mouth opens up, and it's almost beak-like. As
in the head area, or
the head area, staring down at you. It doesn't even appear to have eyes, and it's got almost an unformed kind of face to it. And then it just rockets over you, past Vesper, who maybe pulls out his knife and then decides to put it back in.
Am I able to take any action during this time?
I will give it to you just because it's fun for the story. But I'd say that really this happens so quickly, none of you can. But it's fun. Go ahead.
Is this two creatures or one?
One. It's one big blur. However, okay, go ahead. Never mind.
Boy.
Forget I said however.
However, you said however.
That was just that was nothing. That was a slip. I just whatever.
Is there anything else in the box?
You can't ask. What were you gonna do? I'm giving you one move. Go ahead.
I'm not doing anything yet.
What's in the box?
No, come on. It's in the box. Oh, come on. What's in the box?
Take door number two.
Shocked to take action yet.
I just ruined it for you. You were gonna do something really cool, weren't you?
I don't know.
Okay.
Probably wouldn't work.
I would love to hear it.
Well, if this is
Could be
a
the moment of the
creature,
night. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna use enthrall and stop it in its tracks.
Absolutely, you can go ahead and do that as it's got its weight on Frank's chest and basically just vaulting over him, bringing its two back legs, which are kind of humanoid, but also kind of like they look like he's somewhere in the evolutionary plan between the two, like I said, a quadruped and a bipedal creature. Mm-hmm. He's vaulted and seeing a blur of a beak and maybe some eyes. You have a fraction of a moment to go ahead and do what you're going to do.
Oh, aren't you a big boy then? And I'm going to just keep talking to this creature. It doesn't matter if it can understand me or not.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I'm going to sneeze. As long as I keep talking and do nothing but speak, it takes no actions other than to defend itself, even over multiple rounds. If it's attacked, the effect ends. So I'm just trying to buy some time. Mm-hmm. And in the talk of what I'm saying, I want to keep it on me and try and give some instruction towards Murphy to, once he's collected himself, to
just don't freeze it on me.
I'm going to recommend that you shout at it. And I would say that as like out of character, as like a meta kind of suggestion, you would sort of realize this thing is moving really fast. So you're not going to be like, hey, how's it going? You're going to be like, hey, how's it going? Like at the top of your voice. I mean, just to let you know. So you're using the voice. On top of that, are you expending any effort? This is like your adrenaline.
Yeah,
is
this
running.
just like jumped at me. So I'm gonna use 2 levels of effort.
Got it.
And then
Do it.
I don't really have anything else.
Well, animal handling.
No. Yeah. All right, here we go.
Go ahead, give it a try.
It's a 6.
Unfortunately, it moves way too fast, and it almost knocks you over. But there is a moment where you're kind of fixed on it, and looking at it, it does not look like it has eyes. It's got these membranous kind of, this porous kind of skin. as it moves forward, and you just have your only thought is, as it passes you by, is that it's slick and wet, and then it just moves. It just rockets past you, and then you just see Dietrich as it just starts running across and out across the dock. And now with that, Z, we're back at you.
Okay.
And so the crowd is around you, and the doctor's kind of got you by the arm. And he's kind of got you at this point where he's like, son, I think you need to have a seat. I'm a man of faith, not quite like you are. But I think that perhaps there's something else going on here. I have a funny feeling you may need to sit down for a while. Why don't you come with me? And he's trying to pull you. And while he does this, he's making eye contact with certain people in the crowd. And not to be kind of like give you too much info, but I think you know, the span of time is very quick. You're associating those people in the crowd with Dietrich's warning before, with people kind of coming in from Vagaver, if that's what they are. And he's starting to steer you there, and he's kind of waving his hand, and you get the impression that he is a man of some authority here at the docks, because workers are stepping out of the way. And as that happens, that creature, you hear an explosion as if a crate had just exploded, and then something rockets past, and it's screeching, this bizarre sound, and it looks like this kind of naked humanoid creature with pale skin. Like I said, a quadruped that's evolving into a biped, just pole vaulting across the dock, and everyone's attention goes to this thing, including the doctor, who loosens his grip on your arm.
All right, I'm gonna attempt to break free and dash off. To you.
I'm going to give you a dash off into the crowd, but what I want you to do is roll to see how deeply you get into it, evading any of these Vagavurians, because they were clearly Vagavurians, but they're all paying attention to what's going on with this thing.
Sure. So I will use effort on my speed.
Mm-hmm.
I have specialty in escaping, finding places to hide.
So you're specialized in it, okay.
Yeah. So that's, 3?
Sure.
Okay.
Give it a roll.
I will roll a 5.
You get away from the crowd immediately there. And you seem to be, for all intents and purposes,
hidden.
Away. And now as
away.
Away, hidden, maybe threaded between people that are not looking at you right now. We'll just say that.
All right. I want to mentally, not audibly, but mentally communicate with the other guys and say, what in the blue blazes was that thing?
It's from the crate.
The boy's opening a crate.
I'm barely catching my breath.
Access my supernatural knowledge. Do I have any idea what this might be?
Now, you are referring to the supernatural knowledge that you have from your Vagavurian gifts that you were given, correct? Or is there an actual
a gift? I have a skill of supernatural knowledge of which I'm specialized in.
Okay. All right. We will do that. So you're specialized in it. Anything else? Any effort or anything?
I will effort.
1 or 2?
This is my intellect. I will do 2.
Okay.
It's a 3. Forget it.
No. You don't come up with much of anything on this. So as the two of you now are sort of coming out of your daze, well, actually, I say that Murphy's dazed.
Catching my breath.
Vesper is, I'm assuming, kind of collected here because he had at least enough kind of thought to be like, okay, what the heck was that thing? Have I seen this thing
packed
before?
The wallop.
As you stand up, Murphy, you look into the crate where two more of those things are huddled in a corner, each in their own corner, and they look like they're shaking.
Vesper.
And those little beaks are opening and closing.
Same size?
They're the same size, and instead of screeching, they're kind of chittering. They're making a chittering sound.
You say this is inside the
as if
crate?
They were communicating. They are inside the crates, and I assume that they're on one of the crates that's on top. I didn't think that you had bashed the lower one down, but
Murphy, quietly pull one of those out and bring it to me.
It's human-sized.
That's fine.
As I said, Murphy, quietly bring one of those over to me.
I have a plan.
They're kind of looking from both of you.
I'm going to approach the giant rend in the box that I created.
And at this point, if we were in a movie, I would be focused like through the crate, like looking outward from the creature's POV, and you would be approaching like this, and then behind you would be Vesper, who's like, go get it. You should do this. And then behind him is just complete chaos as workers are running this way and that, some of whom you, Dietrich, recognize as Vagavurians. And what you notice is that quite a few Vagavurians are running after this creature trying to collect it. Okay?
Right.
So as you move forward, Murphy, easy. It kind of pushes the two creatures push back further, recoiling into the crate, trying to stay out of sight, like a cat that thinks if it can't see you, you can't see it.
Vesper, I don't know about going in there after that, but I can take the box apart around them. And in my least violent method, I am going to grab the edges of the box and rend it apart.
Yep. So while he's doing that, I'm standing there and I pull out the pocket watch and I flip it open.
Ooh.
All right. As soon as you pull out the pocket watch and flip it open, essentially, what you see is something you've never seen before. There's some sort of effect on the pocket watch that you hadn't. You kind of knew there was something to this pocket watch for all these years, but now you know there's something about it. And looking down at the instrument, you can kind of it has a greater weight to it now. You know something is, it's not quite a pocket watch anymore. It's something different. It's almost a beacon or almost a link to another place, or I should say other places and other times. And suddenly feels heavier to you. So Murphy, you're heading forward. Are you going to just...
Well, I'm pulling the whole apart, the crate apart from the inside out. I'm not going in there.
I'm not even going to make you make a roll for this. You are able to do it, and you kind of tug at one side and at the other, and you know you could rip that thing to shreds if you wanted to, but you're trying to get
make the whole bigger
sides off so that you can get the top off so that it doesn't come collapsing down on top of this creature. And now that you've removed it, the top, you toss it to the side, and these two creatures huddle beside each other, and one of them kind of stretches out its arms and hops down onto the dock. And moves between the crates that are on the pallet, trying to hide itself, and its fingers wrap around the edges of the crate, and it peeks out at you, but then ducks back in. And the other one's just sitting there, making itself into a small little creature, not looking.
I'll look back to Vesper and say, I got one out.
I'm going to kneel down and I'm going to hold the watch out. And I'm going to take some liberties here. So,
Yeah.
Mars who had not been visible for a while yet.
Sure.
Her head peeps up out of the top of the watch. So I'm holding it like this, and it peeps up and is eyeing this first creature. And I'm just going to beckon the creature forward towards her.
Go ahead and make a roll for that. And tell me if you're going to be easing the task at all.
Yeah, I'll do a couple levels of effort, and I will utilize the persuasion skill.
Are you trained or specialized?
I am trained.
Okay.
And then also Mars is just making the cutest little pointum on her face.
I'll call Mars an asset. I'll
There
accept
you go.
that. I had to think about it for a moment, but okay. I'm a cat owner. I know what it's like.
That's a 3, so I'm going to spend an XP and re-roll this.
Go right ahead. And just to remind people at home, you can actually use XP in order to re-roll a roll that didn't particularly go the way that you wanted it to go.
Can I do it again? A 2? Are you kidding me? So much for the cool things.
Sure. Why not? Focused in.
11.
It's looking at you, and it lowers itself down, and it slowly starts to crawl toward Mars, as if Mars were holding its curiosity more than you were, and it looks to you cautiously.
And I'm just nodding and beckoning, and as it is moving in, Mars's head begins to expand slightly, and her mouth drops open and starts widening. And as the creature moves in on her, she's going to just be consuming this creature in order to deposit it into the hidden closet that my magical ally provides of a 3 meter by 3 meter hidden interdimensional area inside the object.
I like this.
Wow.
I like this. I am going to allow this. And indeed, this creature crawls forward, moving into Mars's mouth, which is expanded to an incredible size. And you, Murphy, have to do a bit of a double take.
It's like
at
one of
this.
those kind of carnival nightmare dream sequences.
Usually
And
the
it all
stuff
just
comes
is
out.
very it's all just very calm, and it all just kind of happens, and I'm going to close the watch after.
I had actually pictured it as Jane Badler in V, the first time that Mike Donovan crawls into the mothership, and she moves sideways, and you can see that she's clearly been replaced by a prosthetic head with like a piston, with like a chin or a jaw on a piston that just sort of like goes, and then she pushes a guinea pig in there. But at any rate, it crawls inside of Mars's mouth. And then Mars closes her mouth, licks her lips, and if a cat could smile, she'd be smiling, because she's not the cat that ate the canary, she's the cat that ate the strange Vagavurian creature at this point. And you... Go ahead, Murphy.
While Vesper's been doing that,
Yeah.
I've inched my way into the box, and I would like to use a little bit of might and a little bit of persuasion to try and pick up the third one that still remains in the box.
Okay. And so this is the one that's kind of like...
Yeah, this
peeking
one's
out.
the one that's still in there, crunched
Yeah.
back. My persuasion, I am specialized in persuasion, so I'm hoping that I'm giving the impression that I am not going to hurt it,
Mm-hmm.
but I will also have to I'll use might effort
Mm-hmm.
because I'm also trying to grab it.
Okay, 1 or 2 levels.
2 levels because I get
Yep.
1 for free.
Oh,
Would I?
go right ahead.
I rolled a 13.
You're able to do so. Are you going to direct this creature toward the cat's mouth?
No, I'm going to be standing at the edge of the crate watching the cat's mouth close and go like to
Look, I got
Vesper,
one.
what do I do with this one?
I had only planned for one, Murphy.
Do you think it potentially your cat could hold the second one?
It's a big enough space.
Yeah, we can I'll allow it. And so once again, the exact same process takes place. Dietrich, we are up with you again, and this is just a ridiculous turn of events that you have just witnessed. Is there anything you would like to do at this point as you watch?
I'm just kind of bouncing back and forth between the two parties and trying to keep abreast of what's going on. Well, 3 parties actually. The one creature that's running away and he's being followed. Obviously these 2, and then Z. So I know he's in a bit of trouble surrounded by Vagavarians. I'm just trying to direct traffic again,
Coordinate.
call out who I think enemies are or what their intentions might be, where people are going, if anyone's coming in, stuff like that. Just keep them all abreast.
I like it. Okay, works just fine. So with that, let's go back to you, Z. You have threaded your way into the crowd, and as far as you know, you're not being observed. And I would say at this point, through sort of moving around, you would have seen maybe the tail end of what happened with Murphy and with Vesper.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't see the 2 creatures go into the mouth, into Mars's mouth, but you do see that something happened. The crates have been bashed open and all of that stuff. What would you like to do?
Well, first I want to see if the Puritan is still staring at me.
Looking up, yes.
I want to make my way to the plank that'll get me onto that ship and see if I can go.
You can do that at this point because so many people, it seems,
Yeah,
have not really been.
I'm gonna make my way up to see if I can intercept him on the deck of the ship.
Making your way up the plank, or I should say the causeway. There are actually a few sailors that come and go, but they're also busily, like, everyone's just running around at this point. No one really seems to take note of you. And you finally make it up onto the deck. And when you make it up to the deck, standing right there in front of you is the Puritan. And he simply looks at you for a moment, turns, and then walks toward the center of the deck, where it looks like, if you can imagine it, there's a giant trap door with kind of a railing around it, and the doors have been slid open. And this is the part where the crates had been loaded in using the crane, you imagine. And he's walking over toward that doorway.
I yell out, "Stop! Who are you?"
He simply walks up, puts his hands on the railing, and looks down into the cargo hold. And he's now, I'm going to guess, I don't know how, I've forgotten how big the deck of a ship is, but he's at least like 20 meters away, and he's looking at something down in the hold.
I will increase my run and run at a full speed towards him.
So as you run towards him, he continues to look down into the cargo hold. And when you arrive, are you going to be looking down? I mean, are you looking at him? Are you looking?
Well, yeah, I kind of looking at him, and like, does he appear like corporeal, or is he?
He appears to be corporeal to you. as far as, I mean, you wouldn't know what others are thinking, but for you, he appears to be.
All right, so I'll get as close to him as I can.
He allows you to step right up to him, and then following his eye line as he stares down into the hold, what you see is essentially, it's probably 5 to maybe 7 meters deep, is a cargo hold that's filled with the creatures that you saw burst out of, well, that you saw, the one creature that you saw burst out of that crate. And they're like cattle bumping against each other, making chirrup noises.
All right, I turn to him and I ask him, what are these things?
He looks at you. He looks sad, but he doesn't answer. And then his gaze goes back down to the creatures.
I try to hail TBD. And I say the whole cargo hold is filled with these things.
We're going to need a bigger cat.
TBD, can you use your skill to invent
Yeah.
a fusion block?
Anachronism.
Yes, I heard you about that.
Guys, what do I do?
I think we need to get out of here for right
That's-
now.
Yeah, that's the information we were looking for. Let's get out.
Can I can burn them all.
We honestly don't know their
Right,
intentions.
right.
The ones that we've dealt with here, Z, other than the one that trampled me, they seem fairly timid.
They
and
seem like the
passive.
victims.
They're not like skin dogs?
These did not attack us, no.
These seem like real creatures.
What becomes of them, we have yet to discover, but the ones that we have here seem peaceful.
Are you guys carrying your encephalo powder? The one that takes us back to Vagaver?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to talk to Haley about this immediately.
And just by way of describing the geography here, you're at Commonwealth Pier, which is on Earth in Boston. In 1918, it would be half an hour to 45-minute walk away from the North End, which is where Haley's lighthouse is located in Vagaver. So if you want to get to Haley, you're either going to have to transport yourselves on Earth, on foot, or you're going to have to flip to Vagaver where you are right now and then make your way through. I'm not saying this to be, to force a choice on you or whatever, but make your way through completely unknown territory. You have no idea what you're going to see. And if you do flip, I want to remind you that...
It's not that unknown. I was given some maps of Tremontaine.
That's true. That's true. You're given maps. Geographically, it's not unknown. As far as everything else goes, creatures, culture, everything else, you have no idea what you see. And I want to remind you, Vagaverian time is slower than Earth time. So your 45-minute walk in Vagaver could be a day or two on Earth.
I will miss my appointment with Sergeant Byrne.
Oh no,
It's true.
I think, and I'm
Do
gonna
that.
let everybody know right now. Like at this point, I think we need some speed and meet back at the carpet, because I think we can use the powder for a little speed boost too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll hail the car and have it meet us out at the front gate of the dock.
And you just know, you have that feeling in your head that it's on its way.
I pull
Yeah.
my packet and just take a quick quaff.
What are you using it for specifically? For the speed? This sounds so terrible
Yeah.
to people that don't know the context of this. Are you sniffing it for speed?
Well, I was hoping for the organic mellow high, but
Okay.
no, I want to kind of get that supernatural
Yep.
speed to
Yep.
just get us out of this predicament to the car, and we can go from there.
Now, don't forget here that when you take the powder, your time space is distorted. So everyone else is going to take an eternity to make it to the car. So I mean, my recommendation is here, do you want everybody to take the powder and everyone to make their way to the car?
The dock isn't that big a place. I mean, we could
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was
walk
that
back
big.
to the dock in 10 minutes.
What I'm
Plus,
saying,
I'm uncomfortable with this narcotic peer pressure.
I am
What
just
I'm-
under the impression that there's a lot of bogeys around and law enforcement, and we just broke a bunch of shit, and there was a guy on fire who's on a boat, and we kind of need to leave.
We
Yeah,
can
as-
So
just
you're saying
walk
it's
as
out of this
usual, the
mess.
voice of reason is Vesper.
I'm just throwing that out there.
All right, I'll take some flash powder and
All
zip on
right.
over.
I'm gonna count it down
First
over
one's
the
free.
octacom.
And you're just going to do it, whether these guys do it or not.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'll find a book to read for a few days.
Right. While you wait.
How much are we taking?
Each one comes in a little serving.
Right,
so
but
there's
the
a
one whole
couple
packet
pinches.
will last a while.
It's a K cup.
Well, the thing that actually Z discovered.
Right.
Yeah, that you could take a
Well,
portion.
And you can
No.
control in and out.
no, exactly. Okay, so let me
Oh.
just distinguish something here. So what Vesper discovered is that you could take a smaller pinch of it in order to make a smaller hole in time space. What Z discovered is that you can actually control it and
Turn it on and off.
turn it on
yeah.
and off at will, right? Which is what Dietrich was just saying. So
Does
it's up to
that
you
require
guys.
any sort of intelligence roll or anything like that?
No, I allowed it. I allowed it as a freebie just because it comes with general practice and usage, and practice in the
Okay.
in the literal sense of the word, not the gaming sense of the word. So is everybody just taking a pinch?
Yes.
Taking a pinch and trying to get into Fastville.
I'm just going to wait
So-
one extra beat until Vesper disappears before I take mine.
And Vesper does disappear. He's just gone. And with that, all of you make your way back toward the front. Everything around you suddenly freezes, as if time itself has stopped. And with this, you make your way through obstacles as you normally would. Men that are just in mid-stride running. And crates that are being loaded on cranes, with cranes. Looking up at the sky, it looks like the clouds have stopped moving. Maybe even there's a hint of snowflakes that are starting to fall that are just frozen, suspended all around you. And you make your way to the front of the docks, to the street.
Geez, guys, if it was going to be this easy, we could have done this on the roof and just covered everything in half an hour.
And as you do so, sure enough, waiting for you is the car, which has already arrived. And Dietrich, I assumed here, and we don't have to do this, but I assumed that you had come down from the building and gone to the car as well, or were you working
Yep.
on something else?
Nope. I'll join them.
So the four of you make it to the car, pile in, and then are you going to drop back into normal time space? The car
so.
is
Probably have to.
the car is now frozen.
We
It's
could
parked.
drive at super fast speeds.
Well, here's the thing. You haven't tried using the car when you distort time space.
Right.
So you don't necessarily know that. It was already parked here. Giving that it a try, it won't budge.
Phew, we're not like mushed across space-time. Yeah, I think we should bail out and get to the lighthouse area.
Yeah.
So you're flipping back.
Yeah.
Frank is raising his finger as if he wants
Yeah,
to do
but
one last
before
thing.
I do,
Yeah.
I run to the
going to-
donut shop.
fill my pockets with as much. No, I'm going to poke my head into the guard station there.
Mm-hmm.
Find myself a little paper and a pencil, and I found this little knife also. Oh no, letter opener.
Got it.
Right off the desk, and I'm just going to write a note that says, "Sully, we'll have to catch up another time," and sign it Murph. And then I'm going to stick it with the letter opener right on the front gate, and then go to the car and drop out. Because I don't just want to disappear again. It's going to get weird.
Can I remind you of one thing?
Sure.
Sully is undercover.
Crap. That is a good reminder.
You could walk. You have enough time to go out and
I
can-
walk
in his
around the
pocket.
dock, find him.
And
Yeah.
so in terms of retconning, I would have marked him with TBD when we had our incident and said, keep an eye on him. I need to meet him later.
Yeah.
So at least he's
Sure.
keeping
That
an
makes sense.
eyeball on him.
Absolutely. Yeah. And TBD
So
would
while-
relay his position.
In super fast speed.
Yep.
And thanks for the reminder, because I'm not a smart guy.
You're in character now.
Right. I am going to actually find him
Yep. You can do
and
that.
slip it into his hand. Crumple it up and put it into his hand. And then I'm going to jet away.
Okay. So you find him, and he is actually in mid-stride, and he is part of the group that was once surrounding Z, and he looks to be conferring with several of the undercover officers, several of the flatfoots that you had seen together, and you stuff it into his hand and then close his hand around it.
Yeah, it'll say catch up, maybe later, maybe a lot later.
And the R's are all backward.
Yeah.
even the one in your name, it's just backward. And then you manage to make it back to the car, at which point now can I safely say that you all flip
Yes.
back to real time?
Yes.
So
Yes.
boom, back to real time, and the controls that you had been working on the car come alive. The car itself comes alive, greets you, and then you're able to drive off toward the north end with the intention of meeting Mr. Haley, which we will cover in our next game, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you all very much for watching tonight. This has been episode 14 of the Fierce Brood. Please do join us next week for 15. If you like what you've been watching, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please tell your friends. Please make numerous fake accounts and resubscribe. Every subscription counts. But until then, until episode 15, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. We will see